Where are we at? Tell me when you're ready.
This is basis 88, part 6, take 1.
I thought it was part 7.
That didn't even go on the other ones.
I'll get your clapperboard next time.
I've got. You should be very upset.
I haven't got a clapperboard. So we're going to go into Illuminism, which comes from pharaonic times, and we've got our pyramids. There we are. So we've got three of them with a cross section like that. Beep. But as you can see, we were talking about the earth energy symbol for evil, which Colin Bloy doused from the Elohim. The Elohim symbol is like that from the Grail stone he found in Andorra. They should be squares, but they're rather elongated. So there should be 13 of those, and I can't be bothered, but there should be 13, which gives you the 169, which equals 13 squared. So you can think of these as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. These, of course, then would be perfect -I generators. This is from pharaonic times. The civilization lasted 5,000 years. I'd be surprised if Theresa May's government lasts another 5 months, but might be wrong. She might follow the great man Rees-Mogg and have a super hard Brexit. So as you can see, they're building 3 -I generators. And then of course you've got the one that precedes them all, a C-space complex number generator, which is the, whoa, here we are, brilliantly drawn. So apologies, but that is supposed to be the Sphinx. So that's our C-space generator. And in mathematics, all 3 spaces are equivalent to a 3 sphere. So in fact, all of these in 3 space are equivalent to a 3 space sphere. But this one, of course, has the lion and the human merged. And remember, the lion is the animal for -I. So we've got another -I generator, the one that precedes these ones. Different versions of -I generators built by the Egyptians. Why? Well, remember we have our Argan diagram. Starts off the north, south, the west and the east. That's the cardinal points. So Miles now knows what cardinal points are. This is 1, I, -I, and -1. This is all the watery pool stuff down here. That's water. This one is fire. This one is air. This one is earth. This one, and then we have animals associated, but the fire one is the lion. So you see this Sphinx with the lion and the man is a generator going from the lion to man, because the animal for this is man. So this generator moves us from -I to -1. That's the Sphinx. So you see the Argan diagram is the basis for these pyramids. And then you've got the king and the queen's chamber inside the eye space. And this way, of course, gives you energy, or delta E. So that's a release of energy minus delta E. And this way is change of energy requires energy, so you've got to dump energy into it. So you see the whole Hollywood music industry, worship of the royal family, giving your energy to Christ and the church, worshipping cults, is all donating energy. So you can see why the US military has tried to take over the noosphere by taking over these energy producers, because normally humans are aligned with this force. They start off from the north, real space, and degrade over time to the -1. So they're becoming more and more time-like with time. And the 1 and the -1 produces the 0, or death, which gives us the normal human. But this way, complex number space, we can use this side. Once we're here, we can then, of course, as we explained last time, use I minus I to the I, which is equivalent approximately to 0.2, to start erasing our real number manifestation. And if we do it 5 times, we can then erase our real number manifestation, and this side we can have I to the I equals 0.2. So application 5 times allows us then to remanifest our body, and a body now which doesn't age as quickly, looks younger, fitter, healthier, and has transhuman powers. In fact, is the body that the pharaohs want, or a super soldier body, by changing the alignment of the energy by 90 degrees. Why do you need 2? Because of the mean free path. The higher the energy, the lower the chance of manifestation. So if you make it 0 because you've balanced it out, then if the energy is 0, then the probability of the manifestation is 1. That comes from probability of event equals 1 over E, 1 over E to the minus E t, where E is just some mathematical constant like pi. And as you can see, if this is 0, anything to the power of 0 is 1, so you have 1 over 1, which equals 1. Then therefore the probability is 100%. Oops, equivalent to 100%. So one can see that these couple to give you reality, and rather than any magician, and we're talking about magician in terms of Illuminati magic, the more energy you acquire, the less probable your will is going to manifest. So if you gain loads of energy, then you need someone to suffer. So the more powerful I become, the more someone else has to suffer, and when they balance out, well, my will becomes manifest. So think of that as me in C-space getting bigger to become the Dr. Manhattan from Dr. Manhattan, that's Watchmen, which I think is DC or Marvel. I think it might be DC, I'm not quite sure. But the Watchmen movie, the Dr. Manhattan, that means therefore that there has to be hellization, degradation of someone else or the general race in order to balance it up. So the more powerful I become, the more transhuman I become, the more the humans have to be degraded, become obeser, stupider, iller, madder, which of course is happening. So as you can see, to become transhuman, someone has to be the scapegoat. Hence Illuminati always have scapegoats. In this case, they've been slaughtering what the Rothschilds have slaughtered with their wars, at least 100 million people. Napoleonic wars. We had the Boer War, World War I, World War II, and the modern wars. Now with the pyramids, we see we've got the -I built into them, but we've also got, they're 3 spaces, so we've also got I inherent in them as well. Any 3 space is equivalent to I, but then we've also encoded into the pyramid the -I if we put in the 13 concentric squares. Now we have 2 chambers for the male and the female, so we can have one chamber for the female which uses it as -I, one chamber for the male which uses it as I. So we can have a dual purpose I and -I generators, all with one building. And of course, the bigger the pyramids, the more time density they contain. The Russians found that for cause you lose time density, and for effect you gain time density, and that it's not mind over matter, but matter over matter. For a full explication or explanation, you want to read Schroeder and Ostrander's book, Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. So one can also think that these pyramids, the 3, can be fitted into each other. So not only have we the -I and I built into the pyramids, but we can stick one into the other to get I to the I. That's if the king go in the king's chamber. I remember the high priests of Egypt were the people who were taught how to manifest them in complex number space and then manipulate reality for Egypt and the Pharaoh. That's why the civilization lasted 5,000 years, which is an incredible length of time, thinking that normal civilizations grow and die very, very quickly. 5,000 years is just incredible. So this technology was used to change the reality of Egypt, so it kept on going and going and going. All for the upline for the whole civilization, which was the high priests and the pharaoh or pharaohess. And then of course we can put that one into here, so we can I to the I, that one. Or we can stick that one into that one, which is another I to the I. Or we can stick that one into that one, and then that one into that one. So as you can see, there's a whole number of permutations, and of course if it's non-abelian, then whichever way we do it is different. So this would work out simply as combinations A, B and C, or we can go combinations of that equals 3 factorial, which equals 6. So inherent in the 3 pyramids is the 6 of the male principle, which we get from the Fibonacci series, the 6th term, which is the male principle, which the 6th term of the Fibonacci series is 8. Then of course the Sphinx was the first version where they just built one of them. So there must have been a way for the high priest to get in there, or they could simply remotely view into the Sphinx. Their eye space would go into the Sphinx, and this thing was designed to go from -I to -1, so you can see it as a weapon system which enables them to use this energy not only to damn their enemies, but then to destroy their enemies with the -1, producing energy in the process. So a high priest would go into the Sphinx as in 3 space, remotely viewing it, and then get the energy to power the war machine of Egypt to damn their enemies. So of course one can see in modern times you've got all this horrible evil empire of NATO with these horrible American and European soldiers, and Canadian and Australian. They all need to be turned into torture toys. So for the Chinese military, the Russian military, the great North Korean military, remember Kim Jong-un, a walking god on earth, and of course the brave Iranians fighting against Zionism and Israel. They of course can send their remote viewers into the Sphinx and gain the -I energy, which they can then dump into American soldiers or British soldiers or French soldiers to damn them, and then of course dump the -1 into the soldiers, so any war they fight they always lose and they always kill themselves. This of course has the template, which are the greatest super soldiers of modern times, the Vietnamese, who did this on the Americans, damning the Americans. Remember, the whole archetype of America was destroyed by the Vietnam War, and the US military was destroyed by the defeat in Vietnam. They didn't quite understand what was going on, but as you can see, complex number space and this pharaonic, really old stuff that, remember, if a civilization is going to last 5,000 years, you've got to make damn sure that your enemy isn't going to come and invade your territory, because 5,000 years simply doesn't mean keeping the population all docile and happy and loving the pharaoh and his high priests. No, it's keeping those things outside the kingdom who want to destroy you or want to migrate, like those migrants, the mud people, from entering into your kingdom and destroying it. So they didn't build these first, they built the Sphinx first. The Sphinx was designed to allow high priests to go into psi space, go into the Sphinx, which was designed in this man lion, which then, that huge mass of the Sphinx would produce time density, cause there'd be a loss of time density from the Sphinx, which would then affect whatever reality that the priests wanted to create, which in this case was damn their enemies and make sure their enemies died in battle and lost. Now, of course, the Sphinx then would run out of time density, but of course things go from high potential to low potential. So then the Sphinx would either fill up again from the earth energies, because it would be built on a big ley line, or when the enemies were crushed, they would lose time density, which would then go back into the Sphinx from the enemies and allow it to be rebooted. So as you can see, when I talk about super soldiers, I'm not reinventing the wheel, I'm talking about ancient pharaonic magic, which then developed into Illuminism. Remember, the Kabbalah is simply a bastardization of Egyptian technology, and isn't anything that the Jews created. It's simply pharaonic knowledge, which then developed into the Kabbalah. So one can see that these big sea space generators are time density generators and can be used for destroying the capability. What we're doing here with the minus I, once we get to this, we can take off 0.2, we go in again, another 0.2, another 0.2. So the horrible NATO soldiers, American soldiers, can be vivisected, their reality vivisected. Think of it like a giant scythe. You're just chopping away at them 5 times, and then you can go into I space again, into the Sphinx, to remanifest them. But instead of remanifesting them in the north position, you remanifest them in the -1 position. How would one remanifest them in the -1 position? Well, we simply apply, we're going around this direction, we're always applying minus I all the time. This direction is adding I, operating with I all the time. So simply going in there twice, and with the 5 times application, you erase them 0.2 5 times, and then simply go in again and manifest them, not up here, but down there. So as you can see, super soldiers manifest themselves, these are the high priests, in complex number space, and they then accelerate the movement of the humans from being young, fit, healthy, fit, fat, less intelligent, into what you would call the Norman Westerner now, that's mad, stupid, obese, and has no idea what his sexuality is, and in fact can't even say it because, you know, got to be gender neutral, all this. So one can see this technology has been applied to the West by yours truly since 81. Why? Because I've been building a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger being of myself in complex number space, this Dr. Manhattan body, and someone has to be degraded, and simply put, the Westerners have been degraded since 1981 so that I can build myself a Dr. Manhattan body. And if you don't know what Dr. Manhattan is, watch the Watchmen film. Has its faults, but it simply is the best superhero film of all time. Makes the Marvel Universe films look childish. The Watchmen film is not. And once you've got this superhuman being in sea space, the usefulness of that is that any other program from any other country that wants to get into sea space, wants to follow you, simply has me in sea space going, "Ooh, I'm Dr. Manhattan, you're some little human coming into sea space." Thank you. So I simply consume them, eat them, because I'm the first one in there. I get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and I like, of course, being an Illuminati and my Pizzagate. So instead of eating little babies and children like Hillary Clinton and her LA mob do, I eat all of the sea space bodies of anyone who dares to try and manifest them in sea space. And as you see, you can then start consuming the sea space bodies of the human race in order to build yourself to become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So like a giant cannibal, one just gets bigger and bigger until, of course, you've simply then blocked off anyone else achieving sea space, unless, of course, they pay you. But then, of course, you get the problem, which is we've got the witches, the uber witches, who are all being worshipped to levels that were unimaginable before. Madonna in her heyday wasn't on Twitter and Facebook and didn't have videos that got 2 billion views. Taylor Swift's had videos that have had 2 billion views, and KP's had videos that have had 2 billion views. So you can imagine the amount of sea space energy. So when they go into sea space, instead of being consumed, since they're breeding females until they mate with a fucktard, or have some progeny from a fucktard, they're simply presenting genitalia, and the big male's going, "Oh, shall I eat it or fuck it? Shall I eat it or fuck it? Not quite sure yet. I'd like to eat you. Oh, I'd like to fuck you. No, I want to eat you." No, I want to fuck you. So you can see the Uber witches, and remember the Americans have got a production line of Uber witches. Ariana Grande, Miley, Rihanna, KP, Taylor. And as you said, we've had Selena Gomez, who's been done in with her autoimmune system. She's got kidney transplant, so she's off the table. Well, in fact, on the table. But then we've got little witches like BB. So, you know, the deep state, oh, he likes BB. Well, let's promote BB to become an A-lister. So you can see they've got the production line of these females, and the male, which is in C-space, wants to eat them, but as long as they're breeding females, it comes up, I'm going to eat you. Are you? Well, are you? No, I'll wait. So you can see that since humanity isn't just males, and males love to fuck hot chicks, even in C-space you've got the same problem. So I've got the problem with the American Uber witches. I don't mind with the A-list film stars because they're all mingers, apart from Amber. So I've been consuming, gnawing on all of the A-list female film stars and male film stars. We saw Clooney thrown up into the air on the scooter just as a preamble to me killing him. Because remember, if you're an A-lister, you've got loads of energy, and I want it. The Dr. Manhattan giant cannibal is ravenous and wants to get bigger and bigger. And of course we need minus I, we need people fucked, who are then put into -1 where they actually die. When you put the -1 with 1, they die. All of this, though, isn't stuff I've invented. All I've done is explain to you from the viewpoint of very simple baby mathematics. This is not advanced mathematics, this is kindergarten mathematics. What the Egyptians were about, and this is the whole basis of Illuminism. So when I was drawing those 13 concentric squares in order to download evil, that's the machine code of evil which goes into the ley line system. Now once they went from that to the 3 pyramids, because with the 3 pyramids they of course didn't just want to protect themselves, they wanted to be able to do changing a reality. So that means you can put that one into that one, which then can be losing energy, and then that one into that one to gain energy, or the other way around. So remember, for reality control we need this -I to the I to erase normal real space reality, and then we need I to the I to reboot it the way we want it. And when we've got these 3 pyramids, we can put that one and that one, I to the I is it, or we can take some bastard in there into the Queen's chamber, which is the 5, and slit their throat to convert the pyramid from an I generator into a -I generator. Then we can of course do that side. So let's slit the throat of some victims in the Queen's chamber, which then of course turns this one into a dark one. There we are, nice and dark. That's -I. We can stick that into that one, which gives us our -0.2. But then we can put that one into that one in the King's chamber, and we can have lots of fucking in the King's chamber. To have the good stuff to get I to the I. Or we can start with the King's chamber, slit someone's throat there, stick that into there, and in the Queen's chamber have plenty of fucking. So as you can see, it gives you a whole technology of I to the I, and we're using time density, which the Russians discovered, because we build bloody enormous masses of stone on the ley line, and they're linked up, of course, with the Sirius. Which then, of course, allows intradimensionals from Sirius to go into sea space in Sirius to have some nice butchering, to erase their real number selves in Sirius. This is the walk-in. These are bodiless beings. And then more eye to the eye, more fucking, to remanifest them, not in the real number world of Sirius, but in the real number world of Egypt, as walk-ins, if they're light energy matter walk-ins. If they're dark energy matter walk-ins, that's time like space, we can do the same thing from Sirius and remanifest ourselves at the minus I on Earth to walk into the Pharaoh or the Queen or whatever high priest has been designated to be the vehicle for the walk-in. And we can erase the soul, what's inside the high priest, using this technology, make them an empty vessel, a shell, which we call it in Kabbalah, ready for the installation of a alien entity. So when you talk about aliens, you should be very careful, because they don't simply have to be in spacecraft coming down and walking out. They can also be complex number beings or time-like beings that can use this technology to walk into people. And once you've got a walk-in, then of course all the knowledge from this race, which, as you might guess, is masters at complex number technology, will then be downloaded into whatever avatar has been manufactured by these time density generators. Time density simply means that the Russians found that matter can produce cause by losing time density, and effect is gain of time density. So like with the Israelis, they were going to get, what, 15 billion from the Americans and NATO to protect the West and the Rothschilds against me. So, oh, let's win the Eurovision Song Contest, get loads of energy from the Eurovision Song Contest. But they didn't realise the cause of them winning, the effect, was the English getting totally degraded, humiliated by this Albanian piece of shit migrant that ran on stage and spoilt the set for the English or the UK nomination for the Eurovision Song Contest. So the more energy the Israelis got, and all their energy had then been corrupted because the cause of their effect was the UK being destroyed. So then when they try and pump this energy into the England team to get them to win, they then of course short circuit this energy, this force they've acquired, because they're trying to use the effect to make more of the cause which gave them the energy in the first place. So that causes a big short circuit, blows up the whole Israeli and Geller program forever, burning them out, because when you do that, it's in C space, it's called a short circuit, and all that energy then produces the big spark in complex number space that burns you out and produces desiccated shells. So the entire Israeli Jewish psychic warfare program was destroyed and annihilated by them being fucktards and not talking to me and consulting. But remember, they wanted to make themselves billions from selling to the Rothschilds and the deep state. They could protect themselves against me. I, of course, laugh, because all that energy has to go somewhere and comes to me. Thank you, Jewish people. Thank you for feeding me. Thank you, Israelis. So the Israelis now can come to me to use their energy to protect themselves against the Iranians and other threats. But of course, they'll need to pay me billions to use their energy to protect them. And their psychic warfare people have all been shelled, burnt, fried in complex number space. And they can't rebuild them, because when you kill your complex number body, you can no longer use it. It's like in computer game. If you destroy your avatar, you're out of the game. Finished, gone. So protecting your complex number body is vital, because once it's dead, you're out of the game. You can no longer manifest yourself in the super soldier arena. Gone forever. So it's vital for the Chinese and the Russians to kill off all the complex number bodies of NATO and American soldiers and deep state, which means then that World War III is lost, because the Western forces simply have lost the capability to super soldier. And of course we've got 2 million Chinese soldiers who can all be trained to get into complex number space to produce the super soldier, which then of course will be able to use the 0.2 and the minus 0.2 to control reality in the real world and plunge all of their enemies into -1. So as you can see, the future of warfare is this ancient pharaonic technology which the priests used to keep their civilization going for 5,000 years. Now let's talk. I've explained, you wanted to explain the super soldier, so it's done from the last video. Now we'll do Colin Bloy's stuff, because the guy was a genius. I get my chief minion to wipe the board for me, but I'm feeling egalitarian. I'm feeling I really need to do this for myself. It's insulting my supremeness to have to wipe the board, but I'm going to give chief minion a rest. I don't know. I'm thinking. He didn't bring the green pen, and I love green.
We'll do this as a different